Save Kamala. Save Kamala. That is the motto of the day. Save Kamala Harris, whatever it takes to save Kamala Harris. Yesterday, this announcement that RFK Jr. was going to pull out of the race, this announcement that RFK Jr. was going to back Donald Trump live on Friday, this announcement that RFK Jr. rather, and Donald Trump are joining forces to take down Kamala Harris and Tim Walz in November, it caused utter panic. They sounded the alarm. They were like running around going, warning, warning. It's mass hysteria. Somebody actually smashed the glass. They broke the glass in case of emergency, and they pulled the Oprah alarm. That's right, ladies. It was so bad for the Democrats. Things are going so badly. The polls are going in the wrong direction. Kamala Harris, who still has refused to speak to anyone, and maybe that's part of the problem, still has refused to do an interview, still has refused to sit down with a journalist and explain exactly why she believes she'll be the best president of the United States, why she believes that her agenda will be exactly what this country needs, why she feels she'll be better for Americans than President Donald Trump. She hasn't done any of that, and it is showing in the polls. The more they get up on stage and try to speak for Kamala Harris, the worse off it is for her. So they had to pull out the big guns. They had to go out and get yet another billionaire to speak on this stage. It wasn't bad. J.B. Pritzker wasn't doing it. So they had to go out. Who's the biggest billionaire we know? Oprah Winfrey.
After watching the Obamas last night, that was some epic fire, wasn't it? Some epic fire. We're now so fired up, we can't wait to leave here and do something. And what we're going to do is elect Kamala Harris as the next president of the United States.
Man, she says Kamala Harris the same way she used to say deep fried butter. Do you guys remember that? You remember when Oprah and Gayle went to the Texas State Fair way back when, and they had deep fried butter, and Oprah was like, deep fried butter? And it was the exact same way she talks about Kamala Harris. We're going to elect Kamala Harris. We're going to eat some deep fried butter. There was a whole bunch of Oprah-isms yesterday at this whole convention. And the whole thing between Oprah Winfrey and, oh, by the way, CNN, they did this woman dirty. I don't know if you were watching CNN. I wasn't watching CNN. I was watching the live feed from the Democrat convention. But man, they did this woman dirty on CNN. There was this woman sitting in the audience, and when Oprah Winfrey made a remark about childless cat ladies, they cut to this woman who, I mean, I don't know what she did to the CNN producers, but it was just ridiculous.
We just try to do the best we can to save them. And if the place happens to belong to a childless cat lady,
I mean, they cut to a woman, and if you're listening to the podcast, who, I don't know if that's what a childless cat lady looks like. Probably it's a safe bet. Probably this woman that they cut to maybe is childless. Maybe she's a feline lover. Who knows? But the CNN production staff was like, oh, her. Oprah's talking about her. JD, when they talk about childless cat ladies, that's who they're talking about right there. They're cut to that chick. It's very funny to see. There was a lot of JD Vance bashing, and this is really interesting. There's not a lot you can say negative about Donald Trump because Donald Trump has done the job before. Donald Trump did the job very effectively. They have the same old arguments about Donald Trump and his insults and his personality and blah blah bliggity blah. Oh, the bogus convictions in New York that they claim 34 convictions. How can you vote for a convict when you could vote for a prosecutor? Are you going to vote for the convicted felon or the prosecutor from California? Fun fact: just because someone's a prosecutor doesn't mean they're a good person, and just because someone's a convict doesn't mean they're a bad person. Or in this case, doesn't even really mean they're a convict at all. But that's a whole story for another day. But there's a lot of J.D. Vance bashing. They feel that J.D. Vance is the I guess, easy target, or he's the new kid on the block. They feel like JD Vance has done and said all these quirky things in the past that they believe they can make a case out of. They don't even argue about JD Vance's policies and agendas so much as who JD Vance is. They keep making fun of the fact that JD Vance went to Yale. And when Tim Walz sauntered out, when he sashayed out onto the stage of the DNC to accept the nomination for VP, he also brought up again that JD Walz went to Yale, and none of his friends in his tiny little college in Butte, or his tiny little high school in Butte, they wouldn't dream of going to the Ivy League.
I had 24 kids in my high school class, and none of them went to Yale.
And none, because that's such a bad, it's so weird to me. What do the people at Yale think about all this Yale bashing? What do the people, I'm curious. I would love to go to New Haven, Connecticut, but I don't have the time, and wander around and say, hey, do you know that Tim Walz keeps bashing JD Vance for going to Yale? Do you know that the Democratic candidate for vice president thinks that going to Yale is a bad thing? Do you know that this school that many people at Yale have worked diligently and tirelessly, and they've lost sleep, and they've sacrificed personal time and outings and weekends, and I mean, to get into an Ivy League school, you can't be a schlub. You know, it takes a lot of work. I never got into an Ivy League school, but I know people who have, and they seem like the kind of people that would sacrifice and work and do amazing things to make their dreams of an Ivy League education come true. And here's Tim Walz just pooping all over it. I came from a tiny school in Butte with 24 kids. Not one of us went to Yale.
I had 24 kids in my high school class, and none of them went to Yale.
Because we were all just worried. You know what we did? We built potato guns and pretended to like girls. All that other, whatever it is that they did out there in Butte. But going to Yale apparently is a bad thing, which is odd because do you know who went to Yale? It might surprise you to learn that Hillary Clinton went to Yale, the queen bee of the Democrat Party herself. She was a Yalie, as well as her husband, Bill Clinton, who also went to Yale, as well as, Sonia Sotomayor, Justice of the Supreme Court, appointed by Barack Obama. Justice Sonia Sotomayor is a graduate of Yale University Law School. There's a bunch of very prominent. John Kerry also went to Yale. Anderson Cooper from CNN went to Yale. I wonder what Anderson Cooper, I would love somebody, because CNN's been covering this whole thing, I would love somebody to turn to Anderson Cooper and say, what do you think about all this Yale bashing? What do you think about Tim Walz trying to convince people that going to Yale makes you a bad person? Now, Anderson Cooper's a Vanderbilt. He's not from a small town in Butte. Or like Butte, he's not from a small town in the Appalachians. He's about as rich as they come, but still, your alma mater's your alma mater, and now all of a sudden, Tim Walz is making it a big deal. Bill Clinton was on stage talking about the guy just a few minutes before. Bill Clinton hobbled out on stage. They dusted off Bill Clinton. They got him off of the the mothballs. And they had Bill Clinton come out and try to portray Donald Trump as this old man, this old inept person. And he did it in a weird way.
2 days ago, I turned 78, the oldest man in my family of 4 generations. And the only personal vanity I want to assert is I'm still younger than Donald Trump.
Man, he sure don't look it, though. He said he's 78 years old. He's younger than Donald Trump, but he looks like he's 10 years older. That guy did not age well. He was hobbling out. He's hard to hear. He's had to sit and think about what he was going to say. Bill Clinton is older than his age, and Donald Trump is younger than his age. And that's why Donald Trump makes the better choice. But Bill Clinton went to Yale, the same school that Tim Walz is out there bashing every single day, every chance he gets. We never went to Yale. Yale's for suckers, like, Bill and Hillary Clinton. By the way, you know what they don't teach you at Yale, apparently? When you go to Yale, you don't learn how to properly pronounce Kamala Harris's name.
We need Kamala Harris.
we Bill Clinton. So they send Bill Clinton out there, and they're like, you know what we need? We need heavy hit. We need Bill Clinton, and he needs to go out there and President Clinton, make sure that you tell everybody to vote for Kamala Harris. Make sure you throw your support behind Kamala Harris. Make sure you let every Democrat know it's imperative that we support Kamala Harris. So what does he do? He gets out there and says,
We need Kamala Harris.
we need Kamala Harris. Do you remember when Nancy Mace was on CNN like 2 weeks ago and she called her Kamala and they blew a gasket? They just went off on her.
Kamala, Kamala.
I mean, are they doing the same thing? Bill Clinton, he didn't just say it once. He said it twice.
Kamala.
Where is the CNN cavalry to string him up for mispronouncing Kamala Harris?
Kamala.
Kamala, Kamala.
Kamala.
Kamala, Kamala.
Kamala.
I mean, he just doesn't care. I told you this was going to happen. I told you. Bill Clinton is so old and so old that he just doesn't care anymore. He's over the past of caring about anything. He doesn't care what people think. Think about what this guy's been through. President, one of the youngest ever, philanderer, got all kinds of happy things going on in the Oval Office, the whole Monica Lewinsky scandal, impeached. He's been married to Hillary for what seems like forever. This guy has been through some stuff. He does not care anymore. He'll come out there and he'll call Kamala Harris Kamala all he wants. And no one's going to call him a racist. Nancy Mace they were ready to run her out of town on a rail.
Kamala, Kamala.
But Bill Clinton can get away with pretty much anything, as we've seen.
Kamala.
But that was Bill Clinton was the low point of the evening, actually, and I think that was on purpose. I think what they did was they were concerned about Tim Walz and his performance. They weren't really sure how he was going to do on this stage, on this big venue. They weren't sure if he was going to come out and wow the crowd, if he was going to have this amazing speech. They didn't know if he was going to get nervous. So they wanted to kind of bring everybody down. And that's why they sauntered old Bill Clinton out there. And he did. He lowered the bar. He got it pretty low, which set up Tim Walz and everybody else to knock it out of the park. But, JD Vance was the, I guess you would say, offered the rebuttal to Tim Walz. Which makes sense. J.D. Vance is the VP candidate with Kamala Harris. So CNN interviewed him after all of the J.D. Vance bashing, and he gave a really solid description of the evening and a summation of what this entire DNC has been about, or more importantly, what the entire DNC has not been about.
Well, I think it's an interesting contrast, Jake, between what President Trump and I are offering, which is very simple. We are advancing policies. They're going to lower the cost of housing, lower the cost of food, secure the southern border, and raise wages for the middle class. And Kamala Harris really can't run on accomplishing that because her policies have, in fact, caused a lot of the problems and a lot of the suffering that we see in our country. So what you see from the Democrats is instead this argument that if you want to vote for Donald Trump because you want to change the direction of this country, you're somehow a bad person. And I really think that dark message really doesn't gel at all with the idea that somehow the Democrats are the joyful party. There's a lot of attacks on Donald Trump, a lot of criticisms of what he's done and what he's said, not a whole lot of positive vision for how Kamala Harris is going to fix the problems that plague the country.
You know what's really interesting? And he's right about all of that. There's no focus on Kamala Harris. There's no focus on her agenda. There's no focus on what she's going to do to help fix the actual problem, not the fake, phony problems. And we'll get to all that here in just a minute. Oprah Winfrey, Pete Buttigieg, these people are ridiculous. And they know their candidate is a stuffed shirt. They know she's just a big set of teeth, and they know that she has no actual skill for this position. And what's interesting is if you listen to these people talk, if you listen to any of the speeches, even the interviews after the fact on television, they never refer to Kamala Harris as vice president. They never refer to this woman as vice president. And that's all intentional. They don't call Kamala Harris vice president, and they don't call Tim Walz governor. They call him Coach. Coach Walz is what they call him. And they call Kamala Harris Kamala or Kamala.
Kamala.
Whatever. They just call her by her first name. They don't call her Vice President Harris. They don't call her Vice President of the United States. They don't let everyone know. They don't want everyone to know or remind everybody that she's President of the Senate. that she's been in Washington, D.C. casting tie-breaking votes on things like exorbitant funding to Ukraine and the Inflation Reduction Act, which skyrocketed inflation and had the exact opposite effect of what it was supposed to do. They are trying to erase the last 3.5 years of Kamala Harris in the White House. They never call her Vice President Harris. They call her Kamala. They call her Mamala. They've called her a prosecutor. They want you to remember what she did in California when she was a prosecutor, because she's running against a convict. And who are you going to pick, the prosecutor or the convict? How about this? She is the vice president. Donald Trump was president. Who are you going to pick to be president? A vice president or a president? That's the comparison they're trying to avoid. That's the comparison that they know is a losing comparison for them. So they know that Donald Trump is out there calling himself former President Trump, and they know that he's President Trump, and President Trump is being referred to as such over and over and over again. And if they call her Vice President Kamala Harris, all they've done is demote her, and they've put Donald Trump ahead of her in the hierarchy. Also, like I said, they don't want you to remember that she's been part of this whole debacle, even though Susan Rice is happy to remind you.
Kamala Harris has been an integral architect and executor of the policies of the Biden-Harris administration.
Yeah, the Biden-Harris administration. Remember that. She's currently employed as vice president of the United States. And you know what she is pet. I used to think that she wanted something bad to happen to Joe Biden. I used to think she was like, oh, you know what? I used to think they were going to off Joe Biden so that she could become president before the election, and that would add to her, that would boost up her cred. That would add to her street cred. But now I'm not so sure. Now I'm thinking the opposite. Now I'm thinking they are trying to distance her so much from Washington, D.C. They're trying to distance her so much from the Biden administration. They're trying to distance her so much from being the worst border czar that anyone could have ever selected. This horrible economy, the inflation, the gas prices, the war in Ukraine, the failed Afghanistan withdrawal. They're trying to distance her from everything that they won't even refer to her as what she is. Vice President Kamala Harris. And that's a big problem when you're trying to run somebody and you're like, look, whatever you do, don't remind everybody that she's in charge right now. Just we're already having trouble trying to explain to people why it is that she can't talk to anybody. Don't remind anybody she's in charge, because that's really going to screw us all up. That's what's going on at the DNC. Listen, we've got a whole bunch more. I'm going to get to the Oprah stuff because it's fascinating to me. Also, Chris Cuomo was on site at the DNC. He blew a gasket. He just lost it entirely. He went off on everybody, Republicans, Democrats, the rich people, and the whole political system. Chris Cuomo had a nervous breakdown yesterday on the floor of the DNC, and it was fantastic. And yes, of course, we're going to get to Pete Buttigieg as well, because that guy's just, you want to talk about weird, man. That guy is really weird. Oh, before we get to that, well, hold on. Let me just thank everybody thank you for listening to this show. If you're listening to the podcast on Spotify or iTunes, man, I appreciate that. And I'm glad you downloaded it. We're coming up on record numbers of downloads. We are getting record numbers of downloads every single week. It's growing every week. There's more and more people every week, and we're climbing the charts every week. And we really appreciate that, because that's that's why we create this podcast. And for those of you watching on YouTube and Rumble, I mean, just know you're watching and we love all of that. But what you're watching is me record a podcast. And we have a lot of fun doing it live, but there's so many more people that listen to the recording every single day. And if you haven't yet subscribed, or if you haven't yet told iTunes and Spotify, I want this every single day, send it to me automatically, I'm following this podcast, please take a minute to do that. That way you're going to get the information every single day. As well, if you're on YouTube or Rumble or X, wherever you happen to be watching, if you're on LinkedIn, by the way, nobody watches on LinkedIn. We've been on LinkedIn like all week. I guess I started on Monday. I don't know what people are doing on LinkedIn. LinkedIn's pushing the live streaming video, but I've maybe gotten a handful of viewers on LinkedIn. Maybe I'm just not their cup of tea. Maybe they're looking for resume tips or, some kind of brainstorming about marketing, but whatever. But anyway, if you're one of the 5 or 6 people who check us out on LinkedIn, thanks so much. But again, all of you and all of your generosity. Last night when we were doing I think last night we probably got more super chats, and we got more Rumble rants, and we got more people showing their support for the show online than I think we've ever had before. It was really fantastic, and we do appreciate it. Any donations you can make, any super chats or rumble rants, we'll try to get to. We'll try to share those live. And, of course, this is very exciting. We made an announcement last night that I'll reiterate again here today, and that is that we've booked a trip to Philadelphia so that we can be at the first presidential debate on September the 10th. Now, I know what you're thinking. Wasn't the first presidential debate supposed to be on September the 4th? And the answer is, why, yes, it was. But then Kamala Harris backed out. She didn't want to do the Fox debate on September the 4th. So now Donald Trump will be participating in a 90-minute town hall meeting hosted by Sean Hannity. And the debate will be September 10th at the National Constitution Center. I think that's what it's called, in Philadelphia. We're going to be there. We're going to be there for a couple days. And that's important for a couple reasons. Number one, it's the first presidential debate of this season. That's awesome. And number two, it's Pennsylvania, which is kind of still a swing state, although it is swinging farther to the right every single day. In fact, let me share this with you real quick. If you go to the Polymarket election forecast for 2024, this is the live and accurate forecast by the world's largest prediction market. The election is in 75 days, 12 hours, 36 minutes, and 51 seconds. And right now, Donald Trump leads Kamala Harris 53% to 46% in the Polymarket average, which means that they're predicting Donald Trump will win this election. And that is a 7 percentage point swing. It is a 7, and Donald Trump keeps going up. As you can see, he's up another 1 percentage point. But the interesting thing is they also break it up by state, and Pennsylvania here is one of the few states that's been chosen. It's 52% Republican, 48% Democrat right now, which is wild when you consider that there's more Democrats than Republicans in Pennsylvania. But we're watching the Polymarket average. And the thing that really fascinates me about this, and I know everyone says polls, but look at this. Think about what they're saying. Think about what this Polymarket average is saying. The DNC was supposed to be a boon, a bump. It was supposed to help Kamala Harris. And every single night, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday night, the speakers, the people that they put forward, the things that they said, the ridiculousness that goes on, the lack of any kind of concrete and coherent information, the lack of a message as to how they're going to help the people of the United States of America. Not only that, the focus on the wrong issues like abortion, shoving abortion down people's throats, parking an abortion/vasectomy van on the street and handing out free abortions to people. The pro-Palestinian protesters, the burning of the American flags, all this nonsensical garbage that's going on. This is driving people away from the party. It's driving people away from Kamala Harris. It's driving people away from the Democratic nominee. And I think it's fantastic. If they didn't televise this content, if they did not televise the Democrat National Convention, I think the Democrats would probably still be tied up with Donald Trump on the Polymarket average. But because the entire country is now looking at these clowns, they're looking at these bizarros, they're looking at these freaks of nature. They're looking at these, well, CNN calls, you know what CNN calls them? CNN's Dana Bash called them low testosterone males. They're looking at all these people and they're like, oh God, I don't want that at all. Listen to this. This is Dana Bash summing up. This is Dana Bash from CNN, and she is summing up the performances by second gentleman Doug Emhoff and creepy creeperson Tim Walz. Listen to this. Listen to how she describes it.
They are doing so in trying to put forward male figures, Tim Walz being one of them, Doug Emhoff last night, who can speak to men out there who might not be the sort of testosterone-laden, gun-toting kind of guy who wants to listen to Hulk Hogan and the kind of players that came out at the RNC, or might want to listen to that, but also, in addition, understand that it's okay in 2024 to be a man comfortable in his own skin who supports a woman.
Doug Emhoff and Tim Walz are low testosterone males. They don't like the guns and the Hulk Hogan stuff. Or maybe they do, but she's calling them soy boys is what she's calling them. She's basically laying out The plan for the Democrat Party is to parade around these low testosterone males who are sensitive and soft and willing to take command from a woman. And that's what they're putting forward.
Men out there who might not be the sort of testosterone-laden, gun-toting kind of guy who wants to listen to Hulk Hogan.
I'm sitting here, Jake, and I'm looking at Doug Emhoff, and I'm looking at Tim Walz, and I'm thinking, these are not the testosterone-laden guys that you get at the RNC. Thank God I was at the RNC, man. Hulk Hogan ripping his shirt off had everybody screaming, not just the testosterone-laden gentlemen there, but all the women too. That's the comparison that CNN's making. At the RNC, we had these gun-toting, testosterone-filled men. We had these men who liked Hulk Hogan and wrestling, and here at the DNC, we don't have that. We have soy boys who are softer and not full of testosterone. You know what we have? You know what? They're estrogen-laden. That's why they have tampons in their restroom, probably. But that's Dana Bash. That's going to be the next T-shirt.
Men out there who might not be the sort of testosterone-laden, gun-toting kind of guy who wants to listen to Hulk Hogan.
That's going to be the quote I put on the next shirt. A testosterone-laden, gun-toting guy who likes to listen to Hulk Hogan. that's going to be what, and the Trump quote is great.
America's future will be bigger, better, bolder, brighter, happier, stronger, freer, greater, and more united than ever before.
Yeah, which, by the way, you can find all that at the markkshop.com. You can get all your full collection of the Brighter Future quote tees and tanks and hoodies and everything else that you could possibly want. Markkshop.com is where you go for those. But Dana Bash is and you know what? It set the scene perfectly because Doug Emhoff and Tim Walz, they weren't the only low testosterone guys at the DNC. Let's not forget the primetime address by Pete Buttigieg. Pete Buttigieg, who wanted to let you know again that it's not all about masculinity and wrestling.
I don't presume to know what it's like in your kitchen, but I know, as sure as I am standing here, that everything in it, the bills you pay at that table, the shape of the family that sits there, the fears and the dreams that you talk about late into the night there, all of it compels us to demand more from our politics than a rerun of some TV wrestling death match.
A rerun of some TV wrestling death match. They're going after men. They're trying to say, we don't want men in our party. If you are a man, if you are strong, if you like wrestling, if you like watching wrestling, if you're one of those Dana White, thick neck, jarhead, jughead, meathead, roid-raging guys who carries guns, drives a truck, if you like Hulk Hogan, you have no part of this party. But if you like Tim Walz, if you like Doug Emhoff, if you like tampons in the boys' room, if you like Pete Buttigieg, if you would like to get a free vasectomy so that we can sterilize you and cut off the flow of testosterone to your already testosterone-laden body, if you would like some estrogen injections, then come on over here to the Democrat Party. We are ready for you. We are so ready for you. And Pete Buttigieg is telling there won't be any reruns of death matches here. You know what we're all about? We're all about softness. We're all about politeness. We're all about niceness. We're better than those thugs over there at the Republican National Convention.
We get to choose. We get to choose our president. We get to choose our policies, but most of all, we will choose a better politics.
That's the weird message that they were pummeling out yesterday, and Oprah Winfrey had it too, and we'll get to her in just a minute. A better politics. Pete Buttigieg can't get out there and say anything positive about Kamala Harris's record because it's horrible. He can't get out there and say anything positive about Kamala Harris's agenda because she doesn't have one. He can't get out there and say anything positive at all about Kamala Harris as a leader because she's never been a leader. And so he's got to get out there and say, you know what we're going to do? We are going to vote for better politics.
We get to choose. We get to choose our president. We get to choose our policies, but most of all, we will choose a better politics.
Is anybody looking for that? Is anybody hoping for a better politics? Is that what Americans are looking for? See, I thought we wanted more money. That's what I want. I want more money. I want fewer taxes. I want my money to grow faster. I want my 401k to be replenished. I want gas prices to come down so it doesn't cost as much to fill my big testosterone-laden SUV that I carry my guns around in. I want food prices to come down. I want the cost of buying a home to come down. I want a strong economy. I don't want inflation. I don't want to have to work till I'm 84 years old. I probably will because I love it, but I don't want to have to. I want security, financial security for me, financial security for my future, financial security for my family, financial security for my family's future. I don't want the government taking every dollar that I have and giving it to some illegal immigrant who took over a city like New York or San Francisco or Austin, Texas, and I especially don't want them sending it over to Ukraine, where Vladimir Zelensky and his band of corrupt generals can take it to Spain and buy Ferraris and villas and cruise around while chugging Shandon. That is not at all what I want with my tax dollars. I want my tax dollars right here in my house. I want a Ferrari. I want a villa. I want to chug the Shandon. I don't want my money going to Ukraine. That's what I don't want. Better politics. Who wants better politics? Oh, you know what? The crime in my city's horrible. And every time I go to work, I trip over drug addicts with needles sticking out of their arm. And there's poop on the streets. And all these illegal immigrants are being pummeled in. And they're taking over the hotels. And they're kicking my kids out of school. But you know what I think the real problem is? We need a better politics. Who's saying that? Is anyone saying, you know what? I'm really nervous that we're going to start World War III. I'm really nervous that with this invasion of Russia into Ukraine and with China buzzing around Taiwan the way they are, and not to mention what's going on with Hamas and Hezbollah and Israel. It looks like the Middle East is a powder keg about to explode. It looks like Eastern Europe is going to continue down the road to World War III. China's, of course, going to jump in there. We're going to have a three-front battle. Our kids could be drafted. But you know what we really need? You know what keeps me up at night? How do we get a better form of politics? What is this guy even talking about?
We get to choose. We get to choose our president. We get to choose our policies, but most of all, we will choose a better politics.
I don't want a better politics. I want the politics that works for me. And if it means that the guy in charge of the politics is rude and crude and socially unacceptable, if the guy in charge of the politics calls people names, if the guy in charge of the politics likes to ramble on about his crowd sizes or about how much money he's made or about how unfairly he's been treated or about the weaponization of the government against him, then that's fine. Let him do it. I don't want your better form of politics, which involves draining men of their testosterone, taking away their guns, and making them all more feminine in an effort to, create one gender? Just like you're creating one world order? It's the weirdest thing ever. And that's, of course, why this message isn't printing with Americans. This message is failing. It's fallen fast. It's so bad, like I said, they sounded the Oprah alarm, and they had to bring out... They had to bring poor Oprah back to Chicago. Man, Oprah Winfrey was like, you people have screwed this up so much, you're making me go back to Chicago? I thought I finally escaped Chicago. I've been chilling in Malibu. I've been flying back and forth to Hawaii. After the fire, I was able to scoop up a real bargain on half of an island. And now this is what I get, huh? All right, fine. I will come to Chicago and I will try to rescue you people. But that's it. I'm only coming one time. Just like the Obamas. Just like that's what they have to do. Kamala Harris has screwed this up so bad. The Democrats have no shot that they had to call in all their heavy Chicago hitters, Barack Obama and Oprah Winfrey. And Oprah Winfrey is basically playing from the same playbook.
After watching the Obamas last night, that was some epic fire, wasn't it? Some epic fire. We're now so fired up, we can't wait to leave here and do something.
I think she means go get some food. I can't wait to leave here and do something, like go get some of that deep dish pizza that I miss about Chicago. No, but Oprah Winfrey, look, she played. It's really weird. It's really weird to be a Democrat, because when you're a Democrat, you have to play to the lowest of the low. You have to play the racism card. You have to play the poverty card. You have to play the it's us against them. Those rich, mean robber barons, those rich people are the demons. They're destroying our country. They're taking advantage of you. They're stealing your money. And you need to vote for us to go back to Washington, D.C. and get that money back from those dirty, filthy rich people and give it to all of the poor people like you. That's the message that they're sending. The problem is they're all filthy rich. They had J.B. Pritzker out there bragging about how he's a billionaire who inherited all of his wealth. You've got the Obamas out there saying, my mama, God rest her soul, R.I.P. She was wary of, she didn't trust people that had more than they needed. That's a woman who has 5 multi-million-dollar homes scattered across the U.S. in some of the most luxurious neighborhoods and zip codes around. And that didn't do it. They're in dire straits, so now they got to bring in someone even richer, a richer black woman, to scream about how racist this country is.
I've seen racism and sexism and income inequality and division. I've not only seen it, at times I've been on the receiving end of it.
Let's not have Oprah Winfrey talk about income disparagement or income discrepancies. What is the income discrepancy she's had? Was it she talking about like her income versus Stedman Graham's? Come on, you cannot deliver a message of racism, of income inequality, of being disparaged because you're a woman or a black woman or you're from the South. You are one of the richest people in the world. You are adored by hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people. You have sold more overpriced crap than anybody. Joan Rivers was envious of the overpriced crap. There was I did a video years ago, and I should probably drum it back up. It was about Oprah's favorite things. And one of the things that Oprah sold was an $80 Quackenbush, something around. I had no idea what it was. Still have no clue what it is, but man, she sold out of them. And you know she got a big fat cut of that. Nothing on Oprah's favorite things list was affordable by the average American who she's now screaming to about how racist this country is. Give me a break. The Obamas, Oprah Winfrey, Kamala Harris, they've risen to the highest ranks of income, entertainment, politics, celebrity. They are the definition of what happens in a non-racist country, not the definition of what happens in a racist country. But it won't stop them from going out there and doing whatever they can. Again, they've got an election to win and they are losing. They've got an election to win and they are losing badly. They're losing by the day. And RFK Jr. announcing that he's going to pull out of the race and support Donald Trump was the nail in Kamala's coffin. In the colophon. They're done. I mean, they stick a fork in them. They're done. They're toast. They know it. So they're trying to salvage whatever they can from the remaining hours of the DNC. And if they need Oprah Winfrey to stand up there and call everybody racist, so be it. If they need Oprah Winfrey to basically get there and beg independents for their vote, that's what she's going to do.
So I'm calling on all you independents and all you undecideds. You know this is true. You know I'm telling you the truth, that values and character matter most of all.
It's the Pete Buttigieg message. Independents, undecideds. You know, I'm calling on you to vote for value and character. a better form of politics. I'm sorry. That's the wrong button. I'm sorry. A better form of politics is not what anybody wants. We want a better form of law. We want a better form of border control. We want a better form of economic policy. We don't want a better form of politics. We don't care about your morals. We don't care about your decency, what you prescribe to be decency. You know what I prescribe to be decent and moral and valuable is a leader who will protect this country at all costs. A leader who will protect the citizens of this country at all costs. Not a leader who allows 13 Marines to get blown to bits in an effort to, I don't even know what they were trying to do. Not a leader who watches the coffins of those 13 people who got blown to bits and checks his watch repeatedly. Not a leader who says, you know what, border schmorter. Let's send all the money to a foreign power so that they won't sell me down the river. And so they'll keep funding my party and my family so that I don't have to ever get a real job, and neither will they. Don't come at me with a better form of politics. How about a better form of leader? How about a better America? That's the message you should be sending. But they can't offer any of that. Kamala Harris has been vice president for 3.5 years. From the past 16 years, you've had a Democrat in control. And what that means is that they cannot sell you on their vision for their future because their vision for the present is horrible. And Oprah knows that.
This election isn't about us and them. It's about you and me and what we want our futures to look like. There are choices to be made when we cast our ballot. Now, there's a certain candidate that says if we just go to the polls this one time, that we'll never have to do it again. Well, you know what? You're looking at a registered independent who's proud to vote again and again and again because I'm an American and that's what Americans do.
By the way, Oprah just admitted she votes 3 times. Oprah just admitted, I'm going to vote again and again and again. Oprah's casting multiple ballots, folks. Somebody call the Federal Election Commission. She not only did she admit to casting multiple ballots, but she also is encouraging other people to do it. That's what Americans do. Really? That's what Americans do? They vote again and again and again? You're supposed to vote one time, lady. It's not like you get a ballot for every $100 million you earn. Every 100 million. In fact, that'd be great. If you had $100 million, you should get an extra vote if you make a certain amount of money, because that means that you're doing something right to help this economy. And thus this year, if you create a certain number of jobs, you should get more votes. Oprah Winfrey is like, look, I'm so rich. I'm just going to vote again and again and again. But they have nothing to vote for. They're not voting for anything. They're not voting for a system of government that's going to work. They're not voting for a proven vice president who's shown leadership and ingenuity and creativity and stick-to-itiveness and the ability to do anything whatsoever. Man, she was given so little and she accomplished even less. And so when it comes time to vote for it, what are you going to say about her? The only thing you can say, she's a woman of color.
And soon and very soon, we're going to be teaching our daughters and sons about how this child of an Indian mother and a Jamaican father, 2 idealistic, energetic immigrants, how this child grew up to become the 47th president of the United States.
All right, so you vote for Kamala Harris because her parents were immigrants. Immigrants. She doubled down on it. Immigrants. My parents were immigrants. Hell, I'm an immigrant. Vote for me. Oh, wait, you can't. I'm an immigrant. I don't understand. At being an immigrant, nobody gets this enthusiastic that I'm an immigrant, by the way. Nobody gets this enthusiastic that my parents were immigrants. I mean, it's the weirdest thing ever. What qualifies Kamala Harris to be president? Why should Kamala Harris be the president of the United States? Because her parents were immigrants. She is a woman of color. And we could tell our kids we elected a woman of color to be president of the United States, the daughter of immigrants. And you know what your kids are going to say? They're going to say, you should have voted for Donald Trump because I can't afford school. I can't afford a house. I can't afford food. I can't afford to get married. I can't afford anything. There's no Social Security. And oh yeah, my job just got outsourced to India. And every time I will leave the house, I'm scared that I'm going to be killed by some kind of lunatic who you let out on the streets because of cashless bail. Thanks a lot, Mom and Dad. Stop voting for people just because they're daughters of immigrants and start voting for people that can get the job done. But they don't have anybody that can get the job done. You can't choose an effective leader from the Democrat Party because there are no effective leaders from the Democrat Party. So what do? You have to choose an empty platitude. You have to choose some kind of emotional response. You have to choose joy.
Let us choose truth. Let us choose honor. And let us choose joy. Because that's the best of America. But more than anything else, let us choose freedom. Why? Because that's the best of America. We're all Americans, and together, let's all choose Kamala Harris.
What, so you just sing it? And the crowd goes wild? That's what you got? You have joy. And not just joy, but joy.
Joy.
I mean, that's what she's got. Oprah, why should we vote for Kamala Harris?
Joy.
Oh, because you sang joy in an operatic falsetto. Oh, I get it. And who should we vote for?
Kamala Harris.
I had no idea that's all it took. You've got Donald Trump out there with policy. Donald Trump was on Fox News today for 35 minutes, laying out once again his plan for the country. All he needed was for somebody to get up there and just start singing his name.
Kamala Harris.
Donald Trump. I'm going to try that. I'm just going to get up on stage somewhere and I'm going to say, don't choose lower taxes.
Joy.
Choose
America's future.
Wait, hold on. Choose a closed border.
Joy.
What else? Oh, drill, baby, drill.
Joy.
And don't forget, in November, vote for
Kamala Harris.
Donald Trump. God, it's so easy to be a Democrat, isn't it? You don't need a brain. You just need, I don't even know what, you don't just need some loud vocal cords and one of those signs that they give you to just wave around. And that is just, wow. That's what the Democrat Party has, folks. They've got Oprah Winfrey singing joy and their candidate's name. And that is what they believe is a winning combination. And that's what they believe will save America. Actually, that's false. They don't care about saving America. They just don't want Donald Trump back in office. And they also, it's false. We know that Oprah Winfrey's joy is not Kamala Harris.
Joy.
We know that Oprah Winfrey's real joy is bread.
This is the joy for me. I love bread. I love bread.
She wants you to think that Kamala Harris is her joy.
Joy.
But it's not. It's actually bread.
This is the joy for me. I love bread. I love
bread. I do kind of, you know what? I do kind of miss Oprah. Tonight, by the way, Kamala Harris is going to take the stage and she's going to accept the nomination for president of the United States for the Democrat Party. Again, we haven't heard her speak in a while. She still hasn't sat down with any journalists. She hasn't answered any questions, hard or soft. She hasn't done a press conference. She's not even rallying anymore. Donald Trump's out rallying all the time. Oh, by the way, Donald Trump was at a rally yesterday. Donald Trump went to his first rally since Butler, Pennsylvania, that was outdoor. All his rallies since Butler, Pennsylvania have been indoors. He's been in indoor venues. He's been in arenas, that kind of thing, a little more manageable for the Secret Service. Yesterday, they had an outdoor rally in Asheboro, North Carolina. Asheboro is just north of Charlotte. And in Asheboro, North Carolina, Donald Trump had a new security feature. It was bulletproof glass surrounding, it was in front of him and behind him, not on the sides, which was weird because the shooter was from the side. So it's weird. You would think they would put him in a box or something like that. But he had bulletproof glass in the front and the back. And he was standing there and he was referencing it and whatever. And he's doing his speech. He's giving his rally. All of a sudden, a woman passes out in the stands because it's hot. You know, it's August in North Carolina. It's pretty hot. And they've been standing there for hours. People have to stand there for hours to get into these rallies. And it's Donald Trump. And let's face it, I mean, that's like, for some of these people, that's like the Beatles. So this woman's she's fatigued. She's hot, sweaty, dehydrated. She sees Donald Trump. She passes out. Donald Trump sees it from the stage and he sends a doctor over. And the doctor comes over and she gets up and I guess they give her smelling salts or something. She's all right. They give her some water. She's fine. And Donald Trump, what does he do? Donald Trump, at his first outdoor rally since he was shot, leaves the bulletproof glass and wanders into the crowd. He walked. I imagine the Secret Service must be like, what? What is this guy doing? I mean, they put him behind bulletproof glass, and the first chance he gets, he walks off the stage into the crowd to give this woman who passed out a hug. And say, "Oh, I'm glad you're doing okay." And somewhere there's a Secret Service agent going, "I can't even with this guy. I can't even with this guy." We give him the bulletproof glass, and what does he do? He walks off stage, right into the crowd. Anyway, that was his rally. Anyway, he's out there, he's rallying, he's doing everything. Kamala Harris is not doing any of that. And so tonight she's got to give this big speech and she's got to try to convince people that she's the right person for the job. And it's going to be difficult because every time somebody tries to convince America that she's the right person for the job, America takes a hard turn to the right. America's like, no, thank you. We're going to veer over here. Yeah, let's be very progressive. No, we're going to be super liberal. I'm super conservative. That's what they're all saying. In fact, Chris Cuomo, who worked for CNN, who was hyper progressive, hyper Democrat. His brother was Andrew Cuomo, the governor of New York, before he had to resign and discussed. But you've got Chris Cuomo. This guy's so jaded. This guy's so sick and tired of everybody. This guy's so over politics that he was at the DNC on the floor, wandering around, and he just let loose with truth bombs. He had a nervous breakdown. He was just like, you know what? Screw all of y'all.
There is a game of money. When people talk about uniparty, we are strangled by the money reality in our politics. Those suites start at $500,000. You think there's like a teacher group up in there? You think it's like the Cub Scouts of Columbia County, South Carolina, that's up in those boxes? Some of them are lobbies and good things. The media boxes, you think they're free? Why do you think I'm on the floor? News Nation is not a broke company. Nexstar is a massive organization. We are corporate media. We don't have one of those boxes because that's the game. You pay to play.
Chris Cuomo standing on the floor of the DNC, pointing up at the skybox and says, those boxes up there cost $500,000. That's the starting price. If you want one of those corporate suites for the week, it starts at $500,000. Those people up there, they paid to be there. And what does it mean? If you've got people there who are paying $500,000 a pop to be at the DNC, do you really think the people on stage attacking them have any skin? Do you think they have any clout? Can you believe anything that they're saying? Chris Cuomo says absolutely not.
Those boxes are filled with the same people that they say they're going to regulate. They are literally looking down on the faithful and being told, yeah, we're going to break down on them. We're going to make them pay their share. They paid $500,000, $700,000, $1 million, $1.5 million to have those seats. They get hotel suites that are probably gifted to the party. And the same thing is true with the Republican side. And they're going to take them down. They're going to change how it is. They are looking down from on high at the people who make the difference in their communities. And that is the reality of politics.
Look at that. Chris Cuomo. That'll be the last time, by the way, you see him at any one of these conventions. Chris Cuomo telling everybody it's all a bunch of lies. When Bernie Sanders gets out here and says, we're going to regulate the billionaire class, it's lies. Why? Because the billionaire class paid for the lights. The billionaire class paid for Bernie Sanders' flight. The billionaire class is paying for all of those people that are screaming and chanting and yelling at Bernie Sanders whenever he screams and yells about the billionaire class. Oprah Winfrey, J.B. Pritzker, those are the people that run the party. Those are the people that they call in the Obamas, the media. Every one of those media outlets is filthy rich. There's more money pumping through that facility than you know what. Yes, they tell you that this convention is a way for the delegates to come together and decide on the future and nominate their candidate and yada, yada, yada. It's a business. The DNC is not a government agency. It's a private entity. The RNC is also a private entity. It's a business. And what you're watching is a show. It's a show that they put on to try to raise as much money as possible so that they can go to Washington, D.C. and buy control. And if they can't do it with their policies, and if they can't do it with their agendas, if they can't do it with their experience, if they can't do it with their candidates, they're going to do it with their singing.
Kamala Harris!
Because that's about all they, $1 billion in Oprah Winfrey singing. If you can't win an election with those two things, you're a lost cause. Anyway, listen, here's what we got going on. Tomorrow's going to be very exciting. We have we got this special announcement, and I'd like to point out again, I pointed this out last night, and I'll point it out one more time, that that last week I did a podcast called RFK Will Choose the Winner of the Presidential Election. And yesterday, RFK Jr. decided he was going to choose Donald Trump. And tomorrow, there's going to be an announcement in Phoenix, Arizona, in Glendale, Arizona, which is basically Phoenix. And it'll be RFK Jr. and Donald Trump, and I'm sure a bunch of other fine people. And they're going to have a rally, and RFK Jr. is going to address the nation, and he's going to tell everybody, I'm withdrawing from the race, and I am supporting Donald Trump for president. And gosh, if that doesn't end this before it even begins, I don't know what would. It's going to be, Kamala Harris today is going to accept the nomination, and that will all be redundant on Friday when RFK Jr. says, everybody vote for Donald Trump. Kamala Harris is not the way forward. And all the supporters that he's amassed, all of the money that he's spent, all of the clout that he's been able to accumulate for himself and his platform and his party for the last year or so, ever since he started running, every ounce, because it's a lot of work to run for president. It is a lot of work to run for president, and all that work now will have been done to help Donald Trump get elected. And if he's not on the ballot in swing states like Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, if he's not an alternate in Nevada or Arizona or North Carolina, then it becomes a lot easier for Donald Trump to just skate on into victory. And it becomes a lot harder for Kamala Harris to make up the difference, especially when she's telling everybody we need low testosterone males like Doug Emhoff and Tim Walz to be running this country. So that announcement is at 2:00, which means tomorrow we'll start this live at noon like we usually do. We'll do a second hour at 1:00, and we will roll right into the 2:00 announcement. So, hopefully you have nothing better to do tomorrow than just watch 3 hours of this live stream, because that's what we're going to do. It's going to be from noon all the way to 3 or 3:30, however long it takes them, because sometimes they go a little long with these things. But that's it, folks. Tomorrow, this whole election is going to change. It will dramatically shift. You're going to see a shift in the trajectory of the election, in the mood of the election. You're going to see a shift in the Democrats' plan, if they even have one. I would imagine that after the RFK announcement, they have no choice but to put Kamala Harris and Tim Walz out there every single day. They have no choice but to send the Obamas and the Oprahs and everyone else out there every single day, because they have nothing else going for them. This is going to be a very interesting week in American politics, and we'll bring it to you, of course. Live. Also tonight, we'll be bringing you the live 9:00 to 11:00 edition of the DNC, the final day. This is it. This is where Kamala comes out on stage, and I assume I assume she's going to give a speech. She'll probably talk about the evil of policy. She won't talk about policy. She won't talk about the border. She won't talk about the economy. She probably won't mention tax on tips again because that really blew up in her face. What she's going to do is she's going to try to get you to feel good about voting for her and feel bad about voting for Donald Trump. Donald Trump, by the way, who, look, in addition to RFK, is amassing himself what Juanita Broaddrick called the Marvel Avengers of a political cabinet. Because you've got Donald Trump, who is the Iron Man. Donald Trump is the Tony Stark Iron Man. Try to shoot him and, the bullets just bounce off. Donald Trump is the leader of the Avengers, and he's getting quite the crew together. RFK Jr. joining the party, alongside Tulsi Gabbard, who's helping him with debate prep, and probably you will see out on the campaign trail. Throw in a little Vivek Ramaswamy, J.D. Vance, and let's not forget Elon Musk, who has thrown his support behind Donald Trump. You've got Vivek, you've got RFK Jr., Tulsi Gabbard, Elon Musk, and Donald Trump. How do you even lose, is my question. Hopefully you don't. Anyway, listen, thank you so much for joining me today. Don't forget all of your Mark Kaye gear. If you want this sweatshirt that I'm wearing today, let me show you once again. This is the official Mark Kaye Saves the Republic sweatshirt. And it's got the Mark Kaye Saves the Republic logo. It's a hoodie. It's fantastic. It's got your pocket right here. It's very warm and comfy and soft. We've got these t-shirts, tank tops, mugs, anything you could possibly want. We have the Brighter Future collection featuring Donald Trump's iconic quote from the RNC, America's future will be bigger, better, bolder, brighter, happier, stronger, freer, greater, and more united than ever before. You can sport that on a fashion t-shirt or a hood. It's very popular. It's a very popular item that we put together. We've got Patriot gear. We've got everything. So if you would take a minute to go over to markkaysshop.com and get all your shopping done, and there's a coupon code to save 10% off your entire order. Otherwise, thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to set the notifications. Don't forget to tell the social media platforms and the podcast platforms that you want more Mark Kaye. And don't forget to share this with the other people who maybe haven't heard of it, maybe haven't experienced what it takes every single day for us. Maybe they haven't experienced our brand of political rhetoric and interpretation. They haven't experienced the truth the way that we bring it forward to you every single day. They haven't experienced this entertaining and enlightening and inspirational podcast and live stream and video compilation. If they haven't, it's up to you to tell them all about it and share that with them. And it's easy to do. Just click whatever the share button is and send it to all your friends. And don't forget to tune in tomorrow, pardon me, for our extended edition of Mark Kaye Saves the Republic. Okay, good. We'll see you tomorrow.